Idyllic Greek coves, bustling Italian cities, verdant French Riviera towns, lively Spanish pueblos, expansive Portuguese beaches, all bring to mind abundant sunshine, clear blue skies, azure waters, and balmy temperatures. A paradise. There's no wonder that so many people dream of moving to Southern Europe. Who wouldn't want to live in such a utopia? But some ugly truths hide behind the dreams of living in this region. And you've probably never heard about the ugliest of these truths. Let's see how the year really unfolds in Southern Europe, and what tourist brochures and immigration agents won't tell you. Chapter 1. The winter comes. 2 layers of fleece top and bottom, 3 pairs of thermo socks and a beanie. Wear tights under your pants. I cut off the toes of 90D stockings so they fit like tights. Wear layers. Wear an undershirt, a long-sleeved shirt, then a sweater hoodie over it. Sweatpants, thick socks, hoodies, electric blankets. No, this isn't a description of someone trying to stay warm during a long, dark, snowy, freezing, cold Northern European winter. These comments come from people sharing advice on how they stay warm in the winter in Barcelona in Spain, Athens in Greece, and Paphos in Cyprus, some of the warmest cities in Europe. And this isn't just a few cherry-picked comments. Take a look at Eurostat's report on the percentage of EU population unable to keep their home warm. Some of the warmest countries have the highest numbers of people struggling to keep their homes warm. Cyprus with 19.2%, Greece with 18.7%, Portugal with 17.5%, and Spain with 17.1%. This means 1 in 5 people struggle to stay warm during the coldest months. In contrast, in some of the coldest countries like Finland, Luxembourg, Austria, and Czechia, only 3% of the population struggle to keep their home warm. Ironically, the colder the country, the more comfortable it is to spend winters there. Yeah, that's what I said. The colder it is outside, the more comfortable you are indoors. It's a common story. Someone tired of dreary weather decides to move to a warm, sunny country in Southern Europe. They think of their best memories: swimming in an infinity pool overlooking the sea, having a cocktail at the beach bar, relaxing on a sun lounger watching the sunset over the water. If a week on Mallorca was so epic, wouldn't living there year-round be even more epic? But visiting for a week or two in the summer and living year-round are 2 different things. The ugly truth of living in Southern Europe is that most houses are built without proper insulation. The walls are paper-thin. The windows are single-glazed. Few houses have proper heating systems, and most rely on heating through AC or from portable electric heaters. The paradox is that weather may be spring-like, maybe even summer-like for people from cold countries. But indoors, you're freezing in layers upon layers of clothes, relying on expensive electric heating. And the problem is that all the accumulated heat dissipates the moment you turn the heating off because the buildings are poorly insulated. It's common for people moving from Northern to Southern Europe to be so cold in the winter that they desperately wish to go back home. Unless you find a rare, well-insulated, properly heated place, you don't get to chill out at home in a t-shirt and shorts. At best, you'll need long pants, a hoodie, and a blanket. At worst, you'll need several layers, including a beanie, scarf, and maybe even gloves. In extreme cases, people die. According to a study on excess winter deaths in Europe, Malta, Portugal, Spain, and Cyprus have some of the highest rates of excess winter deaths. As the researchers note, it is plausible that the state of housing is a main contributing factor. I'm from Poland, and by far the coldest I've ever felt indoors was in Spain and Greece in the winter. Poland has winters with temperatures that go well below 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, while Spain and Greece usually record temperatures of at least 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. No amount of heating would make the place in either Spain or Greece sufficiently warm. When you wake up, you see your own breath in the bedroom. Whatever you touch in the bathroom is ice cold. When cooking, you have a desperate desire to jump into the oven, or at least warm up your hands over the toaster. I resorted to sitting right by an electric heater, dressed in warm clothes, wrapped up in a blanket, consuming large quantities of hot drinks. Leaving my heat bubble would inevitably mean exposing myself to Arctic conditions. It's hard to describe how chilly such a house or apartment can get on the coldest nights, and this is what many residents of Southern Europe experience each winter. When buildings are designed for hot weather, everything is cold by design. including toilet seats, floor tiles, doorknobs, etc. And since the windows are also sparse and small, little heat from the sun enters inside to bring some desperately needed warmth. If it's this cold inside, why not just blast all the heaters and get yourself a nice tropical vibe going? Unfortunately, most southern European countries have high prices of electricity. The poor insulation makes heating inefficient and even more expensive. But it isn't just the cold that freezes you to the bone. It's the combination of cold and humidity that makes winters in southern Europe such a challenge. While high humidity in the summer makes the heat more intense, in the winter, high humidity makes the cold temperatures feel even colder. Average humidity levels in popular southern European countries stay above 70% in the winter. For example, in Lisbon in Portugal and Valletta in Malta, between December and February, humidity levels hover around 80%. In Palermo in Italy and Athens in Greece, it's between 70 and 75%. In Malaga in Spain, it's around 70%. Meanwhile, optimal humidity for humans is between 30 and 60%. A high-quality dehumidifier is a must to avoid mold and increase comfort. Otherwise, you'll be cold, wet, and utterly miserable. So if it's so bad indoors, why not just spend entire days outdoors? If your lifestyle allows you to be outside, then that's an option. The irony is that during the day, it's often warmer outside than indoors. And if the temperatures are mild and the sun is out, on an average day, you'll indeed feel more comfortable outside. But surprise, southern Europe is virtually rain-free during the summer months. But when you look at yearly averages, many Mediterranean and Atlantic areas actually record as many or more rainy days than many colder European countries. For example, Lisbon records 774 millimeters, 30 inches of rain a year, most of which falls between October and February. Meanwhile, London gets 615 millimeters, 24 inches, but rainfall is spread evenly throughout the year. Lisbon gets more rainy days than London during the winter. Between December and February, Lisbon gets 41 rainy days in total, while London gets 32. And don't get me wrong, despite that, Lisbon still gets 2 times more sunshine during the winter than London. I'm not saying that there isn't a huge weather difference between these two cities, but don't expect glorious summer weather in the winter in Lisbon. The city may get chilly and gloomy, and it may be rainy more often than you think. The same pattern of wet winters applies to Athens, 38 rainy days in the coldest 3 months. Split in Croatia, 32 rainy days. Antalya in Turkey, 31 rainy days. Or Palermo, 31 rainy days. Of course, not every southern European city is as rainy. Some stay perfectly sunny year-round. For example, semi-arid cities like Alicante, Valencia, or Murcia get only 10 to 15 rainy days in total in the coldest 3 months. There's a reason why so many expats and retirees flock there. Still, if you're expecting consistently sunny skies year-round, remember that the other name for the Mediterranean climate is dry summer climate, meaning that it has dry summers, but not necessarily winters. Let me recount a quick story of winter suffering. But before, do you like this video so far? Are you tired of where you live and want to move somewhere else? Please subscribe and hit the notification button to get notified of all future uploads. Now back to that quick story. A Slovenian friend living in southern Greece, in one of the warmest cities of the country, once told me that during the winter months, he tries to keep himself warm with 2 heaters, 2 blankets, and 1 small dog. And he's still freezing. Perhaps the problem is the size of the dog? Everything is damp and cold. That ever-present sensation permeates everything, and you can't shake it off until spring arrives. Ironically, despite living in such a warm city, he skips winters in southern Greece. He's more comfortable in a colder country up north, where he has proper insulation and heating. While most of the time the weather in southern Europe will indeed be better than in the north, it's also possible to experience this. Or this. Or this. Then there's also wind. Winter in the Mediterranean brings greater temperature contrasts between the land and sea. This difference can lead to stronger coastal winds. Then there are also specific local winds like the Mistral that blows from southern France into the Gulf of Lion in the northern Mediterranean, or the Bora on the eastern Adriatic coast. The wind chill results in a much lower feels-like temperature, further intensifying the cold on the windy winter days. A wet, cloudy, windy day in southern Europe may feel as cold as a slightly warmer winter day in northern Europe. Setting aside the rainy and windy days, if you want to move to southern Europe to skip winter, don't forget that even on a warm, sunny day, it's still a winter day. Granted, it's a much nicer winter day, but it's a winter day nonetheless. The mornings and nights are chilly, cold snaps can bring freezing temperatures or temporary frost. The days are short, and the sun is low. You may think that you can still enjoy long days in southern Europe, but take a look at sunrise and sunset times in a few destinations in the middle of December, like Larnaca, Cyprus, Barcelona, Spain, Lisbon, Portugal, or Salerno, Italy on the Amalfi Coast. If you hate winter with a passion like I do, moving to Southern Europe is far from a perfect solution, particularly if you can't find a place with proper insulation and heating. Are some days better than others? Of course. Is the weather much better than in cold countries? Of course. Unlike in Northern Europe, you can still expect frequent warm and sunny weather. You can be relatively confident that you won't experience any snow and little to no frost. Nonetheless, don't discount the potential suffering the winter in otherwise hot European countries may cause. Stuck in a cold, gray country on another dreary winter evening, you may consider this vastly overblown. Oh, it's such a pain to have a slightly lower indoor temperature in exchange for mild winters. But don't forget that you're most likely sitting in a warm, dry, and well-insulated building that's infinitely more comfortable than the vast majority of buildings in Southern Europe. If you aren't convinced, it only takes a short winter vacation spent in an average apartment or house in Southern Europe to experience this ugly truth. Don't tell me later that I didn't warn you. But the suffering eventually ends, and the spring arrives in full glory. The beach days are back, baby. Or are they? Chapter 2. The spring is here. Upon the arrival of spring, Southern Europe springs back to life and all is well in the world again. Or is it? While temperatures in March or April can indeed climb back up again to comfortable t-shirt and shorts range, nights can still stay relatively cold. This means that you may still be freezing at home unless you have good heating and your place is well insulated. But we have discussed this problem already, so let's turn ourselves to another cold truth that not everyone is aware of: water temperatures. Many people wrongly assume that sea temperatures are at their lowest in the winter, but in reality, the sea is much warmer in the winter than in the spring. Take Limassol in Cyprus. Average water temperatures in December range from 17 to 21 degrees Celsius, 63 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, while on the cold side, 21 degrees is still tolerable for a quick swim. I myself swam in Cyprus in December. Meanwhile, average water temperatures in March range from 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, 61 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. A prospect rather exclusively reserved for only the hardiest of swimmers. And Cyprus has some of the warmest waters in the Mediterranean. If you want to swim in southern Spain, for example in Malaga, prepare for much colder conditions. Average temperatures in December are between 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, 61 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit, and in March between 14 and 17 degrees Celsius, 57 to 63 degrees Fahrenheit. The swimming season in Malaga lasts only between June and October. The rest of the year, the sea, as inviting as it may look, is only good for exactly that, looking at it. Sure, it's still nice to just be able to look at the sea, and if you want to swim, you can solve the problem with a wetsuit. You may also still practice many water activities where you aren't in the water, like sailing. But if you're interested in a casual, relaxing dip, like most people are, the waters of Southern Europe are off limits for a surprisingly long part of the year, including the spring. But otherwise, this time of year in Southern Europe is perfect for hiking and exploring cultural attractions. Most of the tourists are yet to come, so you can enjoy many venues in peace. The weather is warmer, but not yet too hot. This is the perfect moment to explore blooming, vibrant spring colors. I consider spring to be the second best season to be in Southern Europe, for certain people. But there's another season that takes the crown, and that is, no, not the summer. But let's talk about the summer first and its big problems. Chapter 3. The season is back in full swing, and it's glorious summer again, the time when Southern Europe becomes the epicenter and the eponym of European summer vacation. Vibrant nightlife in Ibiza, dramatic sunsets on Santorini, high-end summer living in Côte d'Azur, luxury resorts in Costa del Sol, turquoise coves in Dalmatia. But as glorious as it sounds, the summer also hides some ugly truths that may not be obvious to tourists, but that quickly become clear to new residents. Let's start with the most obvious, ugly truth. Southern Europe is hot in the summer. And in recent years, it has been brutally hot, more often than not. 40 plus degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit days are getting more and more frequent. It's impractical or impossible to participate in many activities with such hot weather. Hiking is a torture, and so is exploring historic old towns. Unless you move from one air-conditioned venue to another, even a beach day in 40-degree weather isn't particularly pleasant. But while the hot days are unbearable, it's the nights that are downright hellish. If the temperature at night still stays above 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, you better hope your air conditioning is up for the task or that you have a nice draft and high-quality ceiling fans. Otherwise, you won't be getting much sleep. It has been getting so hot in Southern Europe that more and more tourists are shunning the standard beach vacations. Instead, they're opting for so-called coolcations. That is, seeking colder climates in countries like Sweden, Iceland, Finland, or Switzerland. If summer in Greece, Spain, Italy, or Portugal means being confined to air-conditioned interiors for the most part of the day, why not head somewhere cooler, even at the risk of wetter or cloudier weather? But the guarantee of blue skies and hot weather is still alluring to millions of tourists and expats, generating yet another problem that we'll discuss in a second, as it has far-reaching implications with unpredictable consequences. The dark truth is that the hottest months of the year in Southern Europe may very well be your worst months of the year if you plan to live there. Heat is but one problem and a catalyst for many more. Wildfires, drought, and water shortages have all increased as potential risks, putting in question the long-term viability of living in the region. According to the European Environment Agency, since 2018, more than half of Europe has suffered from extreme drought conditions. The problem is particularly acute in Southern Europe, where some cities regularly battle water shortages in the summer. In the most extreme cases, local governments implement heavy restrictions. Despite the height of the season, hotels sometimes have to turn tourists away because they don't have enough water to guarantee a toilet that flushes or a working shower. Regions that frequently deal with water scarcity include Malta, southern and eastern Spain, southern Portugal, central and southern Italy, western France, Greek islands, and Cyprus. The same regions that suffer from droughts also have the highest risk of destructive wildfires that fill local residents with terror during each prolonged, dry, scorching hot spell. If you want to own a home in Southern Europe, hot and dry summer days may thus bring more stress than leisure. Then there's the ugliest of the summer problems: over-tourism. The places that attract the highest number of tourists are often the same places where people from colder countries want to immigrate to. Anti-tourism protests have dramatically increased across Southern Europe, particularly in Spain, where locals blame tourists for accelerating prices, unruly behavior, and a strain on the infrastructure and natural resources. If you move there, you may soon share the negative attitude of the protesters. Going to your favorite local beach in the summer may mean fighting for a tiny spot if there's even any place left by 9 a.m. Skipping the beach and heading to your favorite trail may mean sharing it with hundreds of tourists who are unlikely to worry about its inevitable degradation due to the increased number of visitors. Going to a supermarket or a restaurant may mean getting stuck in traffic and then getting stuck in line as residents and tourists now share the same resources. Your favorite neighborhood may turn into a vacation zone, disrupting daily life and eroding the local identity. Or you may not even afford housing anymore, as most apartments turn into Airbnbs and local residents leave the city center. Of course, I noticed the irony. We're talking about over-tourism in Southern Europe while at the same time sharing advice on living there as an expat. Yet, whether you're a born and raised resident of Southern Europe or a transplant, the reality of summers in this part of the world is, in the end, the same. As a tourist, you get your fix of sun and sand. As a resident, native or not, you get your fix of stress and strain. But as the madness of the summer slowly comes to an end, we transition into the most magical part of the year in Southern Europe. Chapter 4. The Summer Ends. Most vacation destinations in Southern Europe consider early September as the end of the tourist season. While some tourists still visit and the weather may still be perfect, things change a lot, for the better. Even the most popular restaurants now have free tables. Suddenly, you can reliably find a convenient parking spot right by the beach. And the beach, where did all the people go? Enjoy it while it lasts. The shoulder season between September and November is undeniably by far the best part of the year in Southern Europe. The water temperature is still high, but the crowds are no longer there. Some beach bars may slowly begin to pack things up in September, but if you're after a peaceful dip in the sea, this is the best time to do so. The type of tourists you meet during the fall in Southern Europe largely comprises a mellow demographic like retirees looking for peace, quiet, and nice weather. The constant sweltering hot temperatures are gone, replaced by perfectly warm days with cooler, refreshing, but not cold, nights and mornings. This makes it possible to yet again explore historical sites, enjoy the sun without a heat stroke, or not worry whether the restaurant you want to dine at has properly functioning air conditioning and ceiling fans. Unfortunately, the closer you get to December, the more frequent the cooler days, the rainy days, the humid days, and the chillier nights. Then the winter comes, and with the winter, you're back to clenching your teeth first thing in the morning as you jump out of your electric blanket into an icy cold bathroom, wondering where you left your thick sweater last night. Each time, as you glance at the palm trees outside, you think of how out of place your sweater looks there. Wasn't that thing only useful in Northern Europe? Wasn't I supposed to live in paradise year-round? If, after all these ugly truths, you're still interested in living in a warm European country, don't miss my comprehensive overview of the best options to skip winter in Europe. Just click the thumbnail that you see on the screen now, and I'll see you there in a second.